with Blue Jackets training camp underway, we're going to be doing another positional preview. The last one was about the Blue Jackets centers. This one's going to be about who's on their wing. We're going to start with the presumed top line, at least heading into the season, with Patrik Laine and Johnny Gaudreau. They are the obvious leading candidates to fill that top line role. They weren't always paired together last year, even when both of them were fully healthy. There were just times when they weren't quite clicking. The chemistry just wasn't quite there, and Brad Larson decided to try to get things going and split them up, and sometimes that would last a few games. Although heading into this year, I do expect them to start on the top line with whoever the top line center ends up being. I think either way, they're definitely locks for the top six, even if it doesn't get going like what happened last year. I don't see a reality where either of these two guys falls anywhere lower than the second line. I do have some, good expectations for them because with Patrik Laine, he actually put up a decent amount of points. He had 52 points in 55 games last year. It just so happens that the last couple of years he's been taken out by injury, which is unfortunate. And Johnny Gaudreau, it was a far cry from his 115 points that he had in his contract year last season. But again, with Patrik Laine being hurt and the top line center being kind of a rotational thing depending on how Boone Jenner was feeling, he was constantly dealing with a rotating door of line mates. So I'm not going, and plus he was just acclimating to a new team in general, so I'm not going to hit the panic button on Johnny Gaudreau yet. I'm going to see how this season plays out, and I feel like both of them are making the kind of money and they're being put in the kind of position where we deserve to have some high expectations for them. I believe they have high expectations for themselves and the coaching staff, and I do feel like they're going to have all the opportunity in the world to prove them wrong. Hopefully, again, that injuries stay out of the way. Then you have a couple of second-year guys in Kent Johnson and Kirill Marchenko. Even though it is their second year, both of them seem definitely to be ready for top six responsibilities, and putting them on a line together does kind of play into both player strengths, where you have Kirill Marchenko, who's definitely more of a goal scorer, only had 4 assists last year, but he did manage to put up 21 goals, broke the Blue Jackets record for a rookie in terms of goal scoring. And then you have Kent Johnson, who can score, don't get me wrong, he can definitely put the puck in the net, but definitely more of a playmaker and a flashy passer, definitely more the kind of guy to, try to dangle a guy out of his skates and then make the flashy pass to make that goal happen rather than put it in the net himself. But again, that's not me disparaging Kent Johnson's goal scoring abilities. It's just that he seems more of a pass first kind of guy. But there is some competition heading into the top six. You have the returning Alexander Texier, who before his injury and leave of absence, he was really starting to look like one of if not the best forward on the team, really. Although he did find himself in kind of that third line wing penalty killer role. So maybe while the organization did have him as a top six guy when he first was brought into the organization, maybe he is best suited as perhaps a third line scoring threat who can bring that high motor, who can contribute really well on the penalty kill. Maybe that's the kind of guy that Alexander Texier becomes, and that's not a bad thing. You also have, if Emil Bemstrom ever figures it out, if he ever puts everything all together, then it seems like he'd be well suited in the top six. But I feel like the top six for Emil Bemstrom just a little bit too crowded. Like I said, you have Laine, Gaudreau, Kent Johnson, Marchenko. Texier is going to be in that mix as well. I don't really see how Emil Bemstrom fits in the top six, and if he's maybe he is in the third line with Alexander Texier on the wing, but there's also a lot of bottom six guys that might be better suited for that role than Bemstrom. He's in a very strange place right now. It just seems like Bemstrom might be the kind of guy that never really figures it out in Columbus, and then he goes to a different organization, and then in his first game back against Columbus puts up a hat trick or something like that. That just seems to happen a lot. But then we have some definitive bottom six contenders, and then we have Dmitry Voronkov. Although I did talk about him as a center in my center preview, but it does look like the Blue Jackets are going to start him out on the wing. If Traverse City was any indication, Voronkov played left wing in Traverse City, even though that could be a good opportunity to get him at center. So it does seem like the Blue Jackets definitely want to see Voronkov start his career on the wing, which isn't a bad thing. It's, getting him acclimated to North American ice and the NHL or the AHL, wherever he starts out. He has a lot of size, very physical, screams the perfect kind of, bottom six, third line guy who's just sucks to play against if you're the other team. You also have Eric Robinson, a trusty fourth line penalty kill presence, has a lot of speed. If he developed any sort of semi-consistent finishing, he would have a lot more goals, as he does create a lot of good opportunities for himself, but by and large, he usually doesn't tuck them in, usually doesn't get the puck in the net, but he creates so many opportunities for himself that even though his finishing ability isn't all that great, he does manage to put up a decent number of goals every year, especially for like a fourth line penalty killer guy. He will score the odd shorthanded goal on a breakaway. So again, that's what he is, and that's not a bad thing. It's just that if he's on a breakaway, if he gives himself a chance, he doesn't convert them all that often. Then you have Matthew Olivier, who's dealing with a bit of an injury issue right now, recovering from a broken leg, not going all that great. Also a fourth-line guy. He was brought in mainly to hit people, to bring in physicality, whether it's with his checks or with his fists, and he did bring that physicality. I feel like he was a bit over-deployed by Brad Larson along with the rest of the fourth line last season, but for what he was brought in to do, I felt like he did great. He's not going to score much on the offense, although I did read some stuff about him participating in skills practices in an effort to grow his game, which is awesome. But again, he is great at what he was brought in to do, as far as being willing to throw his body on people and stick up for guys if they need to answer the bell. And he earned the contract that he got out of it. It's a 2-year, $1.1 million, so not a crazy deal, but it was a bit of a slight raise from what he was making. And he seems to be like he might be a full-time NHL guy with the Blue Jackets. Then there's Justin Danforth, high motor, bottom six guy. He has played center before, but I feel like the organization probably just would rather have him on the wing. Missed most of last year due to injury. We'll see how Pascal Vincent views his training camp and if he slides into the NHL roster after training camp happens. You have Liam Foudy. I feel like he's a bit similar to Eric Robinson, although he did start to pile on some more goals late in the season, so some of that lack of finishing ability, maybe Liam Foudy is growing out of that. And if he can build on the scoring touch that he showed in the late stages of last season, he can definitely define a role for himself on this Blue Jackets team. And I don't think this is what the organization had in mind drafting him in the first round, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to become a reliable bottom six guy with a good motor and some high-end speed. That could definitely be a long NHL career for Liam Foudy. And maybe it's not always with the Columbus Blue Jackets, but if you can prove yourself that you're a bottom six guy, you can defend well in your own zone. You can get the puck out with your speed, and every now and then you can pot in a goal. I do feel like there's always going to be a place for that kind of guy on an NHL team somewhere. So that's going to do it for this video. You can let me know down in the comments below how you think the Blue Jackets wingers are going to line up as we go throughout the season. Thank you so much for watching again. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and you'd like to see more like it. I will see you at the next one.